As I'm sure you're aware, 2020 is just around the corner, which means some amazing new smartphones and their rumors have already started to leak. Today, we're talking about the brand new Samsung S11 and everything we know about it in 2019. What's going on, guys? My name's David Tomic and welcome back to the channel. As I've already mentioned, today we're talking about the up and coming Samsung S11. From what we know about it to date, there's actually some incredible tech being tabled. We might be seeing a whole number of different things we've never seen in smartphones, but for the time being, we're actually still so unclear what's going to happen with this device. We even don't know if it's going to be called the Samsung Galaxy S11 or if it's going to fall in line and go with the consistency of the rest of the Samsung's devices and then going to upgrade it and call it the Samsung S20. What we do know is that in February 2020, we're going to see this phone completely unveiled and we're going to see all the tech specs that we're talking about today. So what's rumored right now are some pretty amazing things for the smartphone. If you're a smartphone fanatic, then you know that smartphones have kind of been a little bit stale lately. We've been jumping from single to dual to triple cameras, but from an innovation point of view, that's pretty much all we've been getting. And so far, that's been okay for most people to upgrade to the next big thing. But what's different this time around in the Samsung S11 and something that's rumored today is an under-the-glass front-facing camera. Now, I don't think I'd have to actually go out and explain this to you guys too much, but that is a huge breakthrough in technology. To have a camera under the glass completely hidden means no notch, no bump, no hole, no nothing, just glass across the whole screen. That means we're moving closer and closer to 100% screen to body ratio. Like I said, this is still rumored tech, but other companies like Huawei are already starting to implement them in their up and coming flagships. So potentially Samsung may wait for this tech to mature so there isn't any issues and any problems when they throw it in to their $1,500, $2,000 smartphone. But we can all have our fingers crossed and hopefully we will see the under glass front-facing camera in the Samsung S11. Besides from the front-facing camera, we're also expected to see a huge spec bump in the rear-facing cameras. Obviously, we're going to get the three cameras like we always do, the normal, the telephoto, and the wide angle. But what we're actually rumored at the moment is to see potentially the up-and-coming Samsung 108 megapixel sensor. Now, this is a very, very big rumor, because at the moment Samsung has patented and released a 48 and a 64 megapixel sensor, which is more than likely going to be in the Samsung 11. But even with this jump, right now in the Note 10 series, we're seeing a 12 megapixel sensor. So potentially we're going to be seeing anywhere from a 5 to a 10 times better camera in the back of the Samsung S11. If we get even the 48 megapixel sensor, I'm going to be extremely happy because that means all the photos are going to come out crisp, clear, and potentially we're going to be competing with the raw photos of older DSLRs to the brand new raw photos of these flagship phones. The thing that throws me off with the 108 megapixel sensor, besides from the fact that it's a huge jump from the 12 megapixel in the Note 10, is the simple fact that Canon, who is actually a very reputable camera company and that's one of their main focuses, is the current leader with 120 megapixel sensor. So to go from 120 megapixel sensor in a full frame dedicated camera and bring down to 108 in a tiny little camera in the back of a smartphone, personally, I think that's too big of a jump in 2020 and we might see that somewhere around 2022, if not even 2024. If Samsung, however, does come out of nowhere and throw in this 108 megapixel sensor, well, that is definitely going to be a game changer for the whole smartphone industry. We're not going to be seeing YouTubers, influencers, photographers, videographers, cinematographers, anything along the sorts, carrying around big heavy DSLRs or even their smaller mirrorless companions. We might actually be seeing them carrying around a smartphone 90% of the time and then taking out the big heavy cameras for paid projects. Staying on the camera topic, we're going to be seeing potentially a 5 times optical zoom on the camera itself, if not even greater than that. But what realistically is going to happen is we're going to have the 5 times optical zoom And then like Google Pixel 4 does, we're gonna have amazing post-digital zoom available from the software itself. I think the simple fact that this S11 is rumored to keep the wide angle lens is more than enough for most people to upgrade. Right now, the Pixel 4, which only got released a couple weeks ago, doesn't have a wide angle lens. It only has your standard and your 2x telephoto. Google came out and announced this like the wide angle is no big deal at all. And personally, I was quite hurt by that, as I know a lot of other YouTubers were out there as well. Not having a wide angle lens is something that's very critical to people with smartphones working in tight places. Specs wise, we're anticipating to see 12 gigabytes of RAM at an absolute minimum on a flagship phone like this. We're also expected to see potentially the world's first 5nm chipset in the S11, alongside with the Snapdragon 865. So if we do get the Snapdragon 865, it is one of the most powerful chipsets in any smartphone, which means that it is going to be able to annihilate every other smartphone on the market right now in 2019. What we can also expect is the simple fact that the headphone jack is going to be completely removed. Samsung started doing that for a recent while now, so going forward, we're probably not going to see the headphone jack anymore, and personally, I'm okay with that because I actually enjoy the audio quality through a Bluetooth connection more than I enjoy the quality from a cheaper, nastier headphone jack. Another big thing that we're going to see the removal of in the Samsung Galaxy lineup is the fact that the Bixby button will be removed completely. Removing the Bixby button is a big win for Samsung here and for consumers. I know personally I use a Samsung Galaxy device and I keep tapping that Bixby button all the time and it comes on. I know you can block it, turn it off, but it's still a very inconvenient button to have and something that really should never have been there in the first place. A new feature that we won't actually see, but it will be very, very useful, is the simple fact that they're going to double the size of the fingerprint scanner underneath the glass. You're not going to have to tap around trying to locate that fingerprint scanner so much anymore, and it's going to make unlocking your phone even easier than it already is. Last but not least, we're expecting to see affordable prices, especially with the 5G models. I don't know about the rest of the world, but in Australia, the telcos are taking advantage of 5G and they're taking advantage of consumers. Telstra, for example, is one of Australia's biggest telcos. And right now, if you go on their website, you'll see that in mid next year, they're going to start charging an additional $15 for consumers to use the 5G network. Now, personally, I think that's a bit unfair and a bit of a rort, but I guess there's not much you can do about it when they're the leading 5G telco supplier in Australia. They can charge whatever they want, and consumers more than likely are going to pay the fees. Personally, I know that in Australia, there is way too much land to cover with the 5G network, and we're still struggling to keep up with the 4G network. So I won't be converting to the 5G network in Australia for at least a couple years, because realistically, there won't be any point. The network itself will be very small, limited, and pocketed throughout Australia, that if you're not living in the heart of the CBD, you might not be getting 5G for the next 5 years. That's all I have for you guys today about the Samsung S11. If you're interested to find out more, keep an eye out for the codename Picasso. That's what Samsung has codenamed it internally, and hopefully we'll be seeing a few more leaks between now and February when it comes out. If you haven't already, guys, make sure you smash that subscribe button 2019 style, and as always, I'll see you next Monday.